So I'm a feminist. My question is about the role of women, though. What should women's role in public and private life look like, and what are the material benefits of that?
Well, thank you for that. Can I take it? I don't even want to take this detour, but can we both agree on what a woman is?
Yes. An adult human female, it's a biological state of being that is also socially experienced. Can I please elucidate just one example of that social experience?
Yeah, I was going to answer your question, but sure, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So let's say you're a member of a tribe, and that in that tribe, you have the biological female anatomy, and in order to become a woman in that tribe, you have to also get a tattoo. That's a social experience that's mapped onto biological reality.
So can a woman have a prostate?
Can a woman have a prostate? Biologically speaking, a woman is an adult human female that has a biological reality, but it's also social experience, right? So I don't...
Yeah, it's super easy. Like, can a woman have a prostate?
So as per my definition of woman, I would say that people who have a prostate are biologically male, but they can sometimes be socially treated as women.
Okay, got it. So women can have prostates. Got it. Okay. So you're a feminist that actually isn't just fighting for women, you're also fighting for men.
So, yes, men also experience harms from patriarchy, but I argue...
We're talking about the same feminism, though, just make sure. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So, men also experience harm from patriarchal domination, but I would argue that those harms come from that system of domination itself. In the same way, for example, this isn't a threat, but if I reached across and punched you in the face, then my hand might hurt, right? So, are we understanding that there are, patterns of power? So, I would also fight for the rights of men as a feminist, just as I would fight for the rights of women.
Sure. Do you think women are happier than they were 40 years ago?
I think I would have a few responses to that. I think that women report more stress and dissatisfaction today because, not because they have more rights or because of feminism, but because they're under dual pressure to both excel professionally and also because of the domestic labor in homes that is structured around outdated expectations. So, for example, studies like the OECD's Better Life Index show that women's life expectancy, education levels, professional achievements have risen in countries with higher gender inequality. So I would argue that what you're calling unhappiness is actually visibility, because now we hear women expressing dissatisfaction, whereas in the 50s, we prescribed them Valium and we lobotomized.
Yeah. That's really rich. I didn't know women not to complain 50 years ago. That's funny.
We've always been...
No, hold on a second. Why are suicide rates going up more for women?
I think that encourages...
Forget complaining. Materially, women are killing themselves more. Why is that?
I think that even if both men and women have become unhappier, men's suicide rates have risen as well, and that's also been exponential. Can you at least concede that feminism offers only one potential explanation? There could be also other explanations.
Of course, obviously, but okay. Feminism is the glaring thing in front of us, where we have fertility rates down, we have marriage rates down, we have unhappiness up, and we did something in the 1960s out of the universities of Bretty Friedan and Gloria Steinem and all these feminists that basically said, you're trapped in a home, go get a job, freeze your eggs, take birth control, and all of a sudden women are way unhappier than they were 40 years ago. And I just have to ask the question, why is that? Is it working? And maybe there are biological differences between men and women that we should respect, and that deep down a lot of women want to get married and have children. In fact, we should applaud it, and we should support it, and we should say it means nothing if you're gonna go be a CEO of some shoe company or be some banker in London. What matters if you raise children and you have something to pass down long after you're gone.
I think I would bring 2 points to that. The first one is just really simple, which is that you can ascribe liberalism all you want as the cause of the unhappiness. I would argue something else. I would say that it's certain economic policy that has very little to do with the social acceptance of alternative lifestyles. I would say that we can recognize that income inequality across a vast swathe of Western countries has increased, which causes all kinds of social ills, a lack of social cohesion, housing price growth doesn't correspond with wage growth, monopolies increasingly become kind of emboldened to interfere with politics, and monopolies don't prioritize social health either. I think that those offer more compelling reasons for a decline in happiness than an increase in freedoms, because just one more thing, on an intuitive basis, generally speaking, people want more freedom, not less.
Okay, so if that's true, why is it, do you agree that the happiest women of the West are married with kids?
I would have to look into it, but I think there are certain
and objectively we know that, right? The women with kids are not the ones tearing down statues, right? They're the ones that actually have obligations.
Does tearing down statues correspond to some kind of smiles per capita data set that I wasn't aware of?
Again, it's a little bit of a one-liner. The happy and the grateful. The happy and the grateful usually don't go burn down Wendy's in their spare time, of which we saw in our country all throughout a single summer. But as a side note, you would agree, objectively, study after study, survey after survey, that the women of the West that are married and have children, especially a lot of children, are far happier than even the ones that earn more money correlated at the same age.
So I also don't think that happiness is a very good metric, and neither do you, because you think gay people shouldn't just pursue happiness by being gay. They have other moralistic considerations to be making. So I don't think smiles per capita is a particularly convincing way to measure whether or not we should encourage women to be autonomous. I think we should maximize agency within a fair system that has reasonable parameters because it's expedient, it's good for the economy, it's logical, it's the moral thing, because if we can't prove the material harms, we shouldn't discourage it. And also self-reported studies is a really flawed way to do psychology. It's the week before my university exams right now, and I'm standing here explaining the basic methodology behind survey collection in sociology, which you don't even think is a real subject, to Charlie Kirk. If I took one of those surveys right now, I'd check extremely miserable. But so would a Palestinian child who's been torn to smithereens. How are we going to measure?
You would say extremely miserable?
No, I'm kind of making a joke.
No, I mean, but seriously, like, but hold on. I mean, like, that's an important point, though, is that the women in the West have it the best in the world, and yet they're way unhappier than women of sub-Saharan Africa. There's something fundamentally wrong here. Because the women of sub-Saharan Africa have something that a lot of women in the West do not have. The women in the West have cats, and they have good jobs, and the women of sub-Saharan Africa, they have a belief in the divine, and they have kids. And maybe there's a biological undercurrent that is keeping a lot of women from realizing their full potential. And so without reading your phone and just, like, you know, connecting.
I'm not really reading my phone.
Well, it's fine. Sure, then you can answer without it. Fair enough. Would you agree that it's a good thing that more women get married and have children in the West?
I would ask you, would you say that a sub-Saharan African woman who's experienced female genital mutilation and checks extremely happy in a survey, and I also would check extremely happy in a survey, who do you think would be objectively more happy, even if they both check the same answer?
No, again, so I fully, if you want to talk about how Islam mistreats women, we could talk all day long. Like, I'm all for that.
Me too.
Okay, good. So we agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
We actually have
agree
agreement.
on many things.
Then we should shut off Muslim immigration to the UK, right? We totally agree.
I think that all religious fundamentalism is bad, and if you take that logic, we should also not allow evangelical Christians into the UK either.
Hold on. So hold on a second. Hold on. That's funny. Hold on. Can you show me what would your example, because I have 50, of a single Christian country that you would say mistreats women, right?
America.
Oh, really?
Yes.
We had a female woman vice president. We had a female vice president, a female speaker of the House. Women earn more than men in America.
In Rwanda, female representation in government supersedes the UK by quite a lot. Did women get treated better in Rwanda?
Okay, I might be super off this. Like, is Rwanda Islamic? Like, I'm not totally sure. I don't think it is. Like, is it? Like, I don't know, actually. It's not. So, again, we were just talking about Islam. It's a little bit of a side note, but you must be morally clear, because you brought up female genital mutilation, which is a teaching of the Islamic faith. But as a side note, like, again, this is very important, which is, I'm not here to require you to do anything or not. I'm making a simple observation, which is objectively true regardless. The women of the West are miserable, and they're miserable for a reason, because we've told them to suppress how they are made by God and pursue something else and get a bunch of trinkets and get a bunch of promotions, and they end up at 38 years old with a big flat in London, and they're miserable. And we should tell them to stop freezing their eggs and start finding their partner earlier and have lots of babies.
Yeah, okay, I think I'd bring two just final points to this. First one is just really intuitive, right? Which is that if you actually care about women's happiness, then the solution is to structurally support them. That means universal childcare, shared legally enforceable parental leave, and in Nordic countries where women have high workforce participation and also some state support, they report higher life satisfaction than in more conservative countries, including America. So if your metric is happiness,
just use satisfaction surveys. You just told me they're BS.
So are satisfaction surveys bullshit or not? Because you told me
do you acknowledge satisfaction surveys or not? You just told me that they're BS. Do you think they're objective? We can use that as data?
I don't think that
yes or no?
It is the only sole data set, but it is a data set that necessarily
you told me they're so
matters.
flawed and you self-report. Okay, by the macro self-satisfaction data, I am correct. And you are right. When you have paid family leave, you are happier. I'm actually a proponent of that. At Turning Point USA, we pay for 6 months when somebody has a child. I think there's a lot of agreement we can have on that. We need to encourage having more children. I think the Hungarian child policy is phenomenal. We should look at that, because the greatest thing that is plaguing the West is we're not having enough kids. And it's not just bad because we won't have a future. It's also bad because the present is awfully miserable for too many women as well. You are a self-described feminist. What is a woman?
Why do you want to know?
I'm infinitely curious.
What's a man?
You're looking at one.
So you would describe a man as having short hair, wearing a little popped collar,
XY chromosomes.
Okay. And why do you think that that's important to you, what a man and a woman is? How
Well,
does that
if
define your worldview going forward?
so
Do you
you
treat
can't-
men and women differently?
Well, of course we should treat men and women differently, of course.
In what way?
We should honor and protect women.
I want to honor and protect you, man.
Okay, great.
Do you
thank
not like that? Do you not want to be honored and
women
protected?
are worthy of protection, of course.
I think you're also worthy of protection.
Thank you.
Don't talk down to yourself
I appreciate
like that.
Please. Can you tell me what a woman is, since you're a feminist?
I want you to ask yourself, why do you think that it's so important to you that we define man and woman. Like, how does that change the
If
way
a
you treat
civilization
people?
cannot answer the question of what is male and female, that civilization will cease to exist.
Is that why the Roman Empire failed? Because all of a sudden Aristotle
it's
or
one of the
something-
reasons why this civilization is collapsing. Because we send kids to go hundreds of thousands of dollars into debt that can't answer the most simple biological question. I'll ask you one last time, what is a woman?
I know you're not asking this for actual, you're trying to get a gotcha, right? You're trying to get like a little baity question, but I really want to know, why is it so important to you to define things in certain categories? How does that help your day-to-day life? Like
What other categories in the human species are there besides male and female?
Well, I just think that categorization is usually unhelpful when we're trying to improve society, right? We want to make things better for people. We want to improve things.
So I have XY chromosomes.
Okay.
Can I give birth?
No, you can't.
Bingo. That's why categorization matters.
Okay.
Do men menstruate?
What?
Do men do XY
Menstruate,
chromosome,
you
do they
mean?
menstruate? Yes.
Menstruate? Okay, because you're saying mensurate, and it's like kind of a little. But again, you're saying these things because you're trying to get a gotcha, and I don't want to
you
engage
asked
with
the
you
question.
like that.
Why is it important?
I'm
No,
serious.
you asked the question,
yes,
and I'm
you
telling
keep
you.
asking me another
Because
question.
there are big
Okay,
differences
you can't just
between
keep saying, "Here's
men
a question.
and women.
Here's a question. Back
Men and women
forth.
are not the same. And if you can't tell me what a woman is, and also you're
Okay,
a feminist, shouldn't you be able to tell me what a woman is?
I'm a feminist.
Isn't that probably
because-
important to feminism? What is the woman that you're trying to
I know,
advance and
right?
protect?
Bruh.
Isn't that
This is so
integral to?
funny.
Is that the whole feminist project?
So a lot of times feminism has to do with the ways that people have treated the female sex on a different way than the male sex has traditionally. It's all about analyzing that and exposing it. And you say that men and women are different, and you think that
Do
they
you
should
disagree?
Wait, I'm just asking you. I'm not done yet.
Okay.
So, and you think they should be treated differently, right?
Well, it depends in what context, though. Should it be treated differently politically? No. Should it be treated differently under the law? No. Should it be treated differently in societal customs and norms? Yes.
Why?
Like, we should open doors for women,
Where does
for
that-
example.
Okay, but where do
we
you
should
see
be
these
charitable
beliefs
to
where
women.
you come from?
We should protect women if they're under duress.
I think that we should protect everyone under duress.
We as men have a moral right to stand up for the women in our life against
think that we
predators,
have the-
against
I think we
people
have the
that
right
wish
to
them
stand
harm.
up for everybody in our
Of
life.
of course we
but
do.
Why do you
But
see
because
yourself
women
as a
are more-
man who
Hold on a
has to
second.
protect and take care of other people?
Well,
You're placing yourself
not
on this higher
necessarily.
ideological standpoint where you gain more power by having someone that you can protect.
See, that's
I
a-
find that system and hierarchy of power to be just
That is-
exhausting to traverse the world through. Just looking at people as people to protect and people to take care of instead of us working together, right? And trying to
So
improve
do you
things
think
together.
there are any differences between a male and female?
Oh, are we talking about just the sex right now? Of course. There's tons of differences just between the male and the female sex. But what's important is how we treat people because of that, you know?
So that therefore they have different contributions to give to society?
I think that everybody has different contributions, man. Just because I'm not popping out kids 24/7 doesn't mean I can't be helpful,
I'm not saying that that's not the case. However,
Okay.
if you can't tell me again what a woman is, and you're not able to answer the question because that is the cheat code against postmodernism.
No, because I don't
let
think
me-
you even know what postmodernism is or
Well,
postmodern
you want to talk
theory.
about Herbert Marcuse or Jacques Derrida or Michel Foucault, one-dimensional man?
Okay, we can get into all of that.
So
Do you
don't
wanna
don't
sit
try to tell me
down?
I don't know
Like, we
postmodernism
can-
because
we
I
can-
have read the
but
pantheon of
you
the
keep
garbage
just saying
that you believe in. But let me complete with this.
Postmodernism.
Well,
I don't want to expose myself
Again,
to different mindsets.
I actually know what the literature says and what it means and what it espouses.
Yes.
But this is why it's the great cheat code, because it is the war
Asking
against.
what a woman is the only way that you can get a gotcha over everybody else.
Great conversation. You'll see it online next week. I hope you enjoy.
Aw,
Thank you.
How do you believe feminism should be defined, and do you think it can be reconciled with conservatism?
Well, so yes and no. It depends. There's first, second, and third wave feminism. First wave feminism is that women should have a right to vote. Second wave feminism had a lot of problems, which is the female liberation movement, that women should not just be at home, but they should get into the workforce. Third wave feminism is complete garbage, which is toxic modern day feminism, which is irreconcilable with any decent society, which is far more about hating men than actually respecting women. And you guys all know the type of that kind of feminism. There are some good aspects of second wave feminism, but at the core of feminism, we have to ask the question is, has it made American women happier? And it hasn't, actually. American women are more suicidal, more depressed, more anxious than they were prior. And I believe, and again, we get in trouble for saying this, is that you should have the agency and liberty to do whatever you want. but many women, a majority, like 90+% deep down, have this urge to reproduce and to raise children, and we are telling them to forsake that and go become a CEO of a shoe company. And we're wondering why so many young ladies are miserable and angry, because they're at war with something within them that they actually want to do, which is to have a relationship, have children, and nurture future humans into this world.
I would like to propose an alternative perspective. I'm conservative, but I'm also a feminist, and I think that a better way to propose feminism in the public media would be not to eliminate having children and tell women that they shouldn't have children, but to figure out your career first before you decide to settle down, because you can't really undo that once you have kids.
So I think it's the exact opposite. I think you should have kids first, then do your career, because which one has a timetable on it?
True, but once you have kids, you're committed to that, and you can't really have as much of a career. So you should kind of define your I guess what I'm trying to.
Kids are way more important than being, a data scientist at Dropbox.
But okay, what if you don't want to have kids?
That's fine. Then go do it. You're risking that you might end up super miserable. And that's what we're seeing, is that we have seen a spike where half of women in their 30s that are unmarried are on antidepressants. Half. We've never seen a spike like this. And again, I'm not saying that's the only reason, but we've never, ever seen a generation or a group of people so angry, so miserable, so medicated. And there's obviously something wrong. And we know who are the happiest women in America. Women with 3 or more kids are the happiest women in America. Least suicidal. Yes, right? And by the way, it's not easy, but it's super deep. And so again, if you want to go be a data scientist, God bless you. This is country, free country, go do that. I just think that there's a part of the story that isn't being told, which is that the opposite should be have kids as soon as possible, and then you can go pursue your career in your late 30s once your kids are 18 years old. And it's the opposite. We tell people, wait. And by the way, when you reach your 30s, you might be infertile, you might have trouble having kids, you might need IVF, you might need all these other very, harsh treatments, and you might not even find a mate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Enjoy class. Thank you.
As a woman, why do you feel that you're not threatened with abortion policies? I understand, you feel a sense of vulnerability when participating with trans women or men, as you consider, in sports. Why do you feel that these policies and these, concepts don't threaten you?
Because I think children are the greatest blessing life has to offer.
And if that's the case, why don't you think children are deserving of healthy environments? Honestly, can you confidently say that a woman who has a child who, the child was conceived under circumstances that were, not okay and very violent and, I can't even imagine. How are you guaranteeing that this child is going to be happy and live a healthy life that's deserving?
Of course, I can never guarantee the outcome of someone's life, but what's a whole lot worse than giving someone a chance is eliminating that chance altogether by ultimately terminating their life.
Are you eliminating that woman's chance of fulfilling her dreams and fulfilling her life? It's foster care systems aren't what they seem, or, people, of course, have opinions of what's right to do after you have a child, or, if you decide not to have a child. But I have a friend who was in foster care, and he has experienced the most insane situations that I can even imagine. And the fact that,
No, keep on going. It's fine. I know all your arguments, but keep going.
I really want to know, not even to be like this, but woman to woman, Riley, how do you justify, putting this almost shackle on women and kind of sitting there and saying, you know what, I don't care, you're going to have this child, despite how, painful.
I am so sorry that you are led to believe that children are shackles on your life. I would argue there are many parents here, mothers, fathers who are here who would not look at their children as shackles. Again, they would look at them as the greatest blessing life has to offer. If unfortunately that's a position that you find yourself in, or someone finds themselves in, where they do see this child as a hindrance, you mentioned foster care. I think we, rather than, again, kind of normalizing and accepting and celebrating the idea of abortion, you work on foster care reform, the reform of the adoption system. I think those are much more beneficial and effective ways to ultimately address the problems that you're bringing to light without having to terminate lives in the process.
Why is there such a focus on kind of reprimanding women for their choice, but not a focus on making sure that foster care systems are what they should be? And,
I think that's a national conversation that we could have. I do.
So why do you not think that's happening? Why do you think the focus is on women and their bodies?
It is happening. We actually post more funding to foster care systems. You don't know about it. Do you know what a pregnancy crisis center is?
Yeah, like a Planned Parenthood kind of ordeal, or what do you mean by that?
No.
It's just a question. I mean, I'm really learning. This is
A pregnancy crisis center is the pro-life equivalent, where you go there to actually have your baby be saved. And they'll actually help the baby with diapers and with formula and food up to 5 years of life. And there are there's thousands of churches across the country that pump in hundreds of millions of dollars a year on that one specific thing.
I make sure I support causes that do as well, whether that is supplement companies. All the supplements I get, my vitamins that I take daily, I make sure I buy from a company that supports pro-life causes because it matters to me. When I say I'm pro-woman, I mean I am pro-woman wholeheartedly, entirely, all the way through, up and down. I am pro-woman. That means supporting women during their pregnancy, throughout their pregnancy, and after their pregnancy as well.
Okay, interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you for answering.